When it comes on to mental health and mental illness, if we look at it as we're all trying to take care of ourselves, and your mental health is just as important as your physical health, your financial health, all these other things. If we look at it from that light, I think we will probably see the stigma being erased.
The importance of life insurance is not for you to get a big lump sum of money, but it's for you to be financially responsible and not being selfish when you leave this earth.
Not to provide for your family is denying your faith and it's worse than an unbeliever. You know that, Pastor, right? So it's right there. So I need to think about providing for my family far beyond the grave.
Because the Bible says a lot of things about money. And one of the key things it says is that money answereth all things.
Yes.
And so we don't have to, because everybody gets afraid, love of money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money. It's the misuse or the mishandling of money.
Right. Money is a tool that allows you to do things and have experiences on this earth, right? And with that being said, but tell us about a specific example of someone you know who didn't properly prepare.
All right.
And what was the impact on that family?
Well, I will tell you about these two cases. The first one, her husband had insurance. But he passed away without having it properly arranged, right? He did not have a will. And she was the second wife of this man. But they lived together for over 30 years, but she still was the second wife. What happened to that family was very, very sad. The other kids came in. They took the body without her knowing. They just took it and said, we're going to have the service this and this day. Come over. When she went over, now she was leaving because the father or the husband got sick. She came into this state, but they were from the state. So he was being taken care of here in this state, and he was living with her daughter here. So when they went back to where the house was boarded up. The other kids took everything. Any money that came in, because he didn't have insurance, they kept it. And now she is not only sad because she lost her husband, but she has nothing. She feels like she needs to start over again. Thankfully, she has the church and she has her daughter there.
I'm sorry, Aries, but in that example, who was the primary beneficiary on the policy? The first wife and the children were...
The children just took everything.
So the first wife was the primary, he never switched it.
Right.
That's right.
In the will. And the insurance policy.
No, it not even have a will, because if the insurance comes in and there is not a will, or let's say that the beneficiary is already dead,
and testate succession.
The testament, the will arrange all that. But since that wasn't in place, now she, that is the rightful owner of everything, because she built 30 years with this man, she lost everything. And this is something that happened right now. No, it wasn't years ago, it was right now. I'm dealing with it because I get to counsel them and try to walk her through that feeling of loss that she has. But it is a serious matter. Now, the other issue was with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, she passed away 2 years ago. Right when I began to learn about the importance of insurance. When I began to learn about the importance of that, which prior to that, all the excuses that I told you, they were part of my upbringing. This is just coming soon, don't worry about that. You don't see that in the Bible. So I had to, when somebody came to me and offered it to me, the Bible says that he who answers a matter without thinking it over is a fool. So I say, you know what? I'll get back to you. I'm going to really research this. So I did. I did my research, and I actually became an agent, because I go through, I got a lot of people that they're suffering that loss. So I became a life insurance agent. I got my mother-in-law an insurance. However, she was already diagnosed with cancer prior to that. So there was a clause that it had to be after 2 years that she passed away. Right. So luckily, at least that little part was there. So when she died, it did not pay out fully because she died before the 2 years, but it gave back to us whatever we put in plus a 10% on top of that. So it did help us some. However, all the other financial impacts were there. As the head of the family, and me knowing how the system worked, I was able to, look for the best prices and things like that. And that wasn't that big of a deal as it could have been. But let me tell you how many times I've gone through funeral when I see the audience. I don't know if that's the proper name, but I can see in the family whether or not there was a life insurance in place or not. You know that? I can't tell you because they are they are crying, they are upset, not only because of the loss, but because of what in the world am I going to do? Right? Because paying for the funeral is one thing, but everything else is a whole different thing. But when I go to a funeral, when I see that there is insurance in place, I see a sense of peace. Grief, but there is peace. It's not chaotic. There's peace in there. And they know that they're going to be okay. See, and that's the key. That's the key. When you were making that example, and now he died, and now she's left with, I don't remember the word they say.
I just picked up 84 years old.
Right. Okay, but I mean, she's left with an uncertain future. That's what she's left with. It's with an uncertain future, having to perhaps go out to work and leave the kids, or having to stay in and lose everything. What is she gonna do? And what are you gonna be as a man? What are you gonna be remembered by? Oh my God, he died, and now I have all this bill. The first few days, he died. After those few days, oh man, I have all this bill because he died, right? So you got to understand the legacy that you're leaving for your family, the legacy that you're leaving for the people in your life. It is an act of love when you get a life insurance policy.
And I want to piggyback off of that is that people need to understand to get life insurance, it's much better to get it when you're younger.
That's right.
It pays itself off. There's two different kinds. There's term, there's whole life. People don't understand the difference. They see $100,000 for $20. That automatically throws a red flag for me. Either that's an accident only policy or it's a term policy. It's like, term policies are like, renting an apartment. You're going to get just what you're going to get out of it. The lease is up and that's it.
That's right.
Whole life is like owning a home. It builds equity. It builds cash value over time. Right now, I have an 18-year-old. I do not pay for college. That whole life policy I got for him when he was born pays for whatever expenses that I don't want to pay. So with that being said, knowledge is powerful
when you apply it. But also in addition to that, you mentioned that it's better or easier. I use some adjective to say that it's better or easier when you're younger. Elaborate on that more.
So
tell us why.
The reason why is because it's cheaper in costs. Younger people have less health issues. They're not most likely going to die per se. With that being said, it's a difference if for a 20-year-old to get a $100,000 policy, you only pay $50 a month versus a 60-year-old that's going to pay $300 a month for the same $100,000 policy. So you're like, why is it so expensive? Because you waited too long. And by the way, it's great that you have insurance on your job. That's cute, but that's not permanent. Right. Because the average person changed their job every 4 years. So once you leave that job, that insurance is gone. So now you're 4 years older. You probably got more health issues. Yeah. And so now you need to think about insurance outside of work because that's not permanent. That's temporary.
And also in addition to that, whether you're getting a whole life policy or even a term policy, here's the thing about it. Getting it while you're younger will kind of, depending on the term of your policy, may lock in your premium for a certain period of time.
Absolutely.
So in other words, you said that it may be this amount of money if you're 40 versus this amount of money if you're 60. Well, if you get it at 40, by the time you're 60, you say, well, you just said it's going to be $300 a month. No, it may not be $300 a month because that premium was locked in when I was 40. So I will have a cheaper premium even when I'm 60 as well.
Correct.
That's one of the other reasons why it's better to get it while you're young.
Absolutely.
Okay. And not only that, there are some companies, and you have to make sure that your agent can articulate and explain it very well to you. But there are some companies that will, if you are in a financial situation where you understand the need and the importance, but you really cannot afford a whole life policy, there are some companies that would allow you to start with a term insurance policy, which you may be paying $15, $20 a month for 100, 200,000, depending on your age and your health. But then within that year, you can then convert that into a permanent policy that will be cash value, and they will start paying you when you become 65 or you retire. And they will not take into consideration your age nor your health, because they locked it down when within a year or two, depending on the company. So there are options out there. In fact, you pay more monthly for HBO, for what is that other thing, Netflix, adding yourself to you. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of judgment when it comes to where you're going to put your money.
Priorities.
Right. And so to wrap that part up, unless you have any subsequent questions, Big.
Well, I was just wondering, how will the young people learn about this? How do they get the information?
And how will the older folks who are ignoring Erica and Aries learn about it as well?
Because Netflix is advertising. You got advertisings for all these other things.
And another thing that he talked about.
Right. But what do we do?
So I'm huge on social media, and I'm a techie geeky. So I meet them where they are. See, sometimes we want them to come to us, but where they are, I go to the junior colleges. I go to the high schools. They have banks inside the high school. Well, while they're talking about banking, let me talk to them about life insurance, because some of them are of age that they can get it on their own.
And whether you're buying whole life or buying term and investing the difference yourself, that's completely up to you. But the key is to make sure that you have it so that you're not a financial burden on your family should you die and way before you plan to.
If I may add one more little thing before we change topics, is the fact that you see this in a lot of the older generation, that they, at least I see it in the Hispanic market, they don't believe in insurance, but they believe in taking care of business. So they have a savings account there. They have $15,000, $20,000 for when they die. However, what happens is that prior to your death, you get sick. And within 6 months, even $50,000 in the bank can just go away. Yes. Go away like within 6 months, and now your family is left with nothing. What I tell to these folks is to do the same thing. Get yourself a free banking account, checking out, put all the money in there, get a life insurance, and have the monthly premium coming out of there. Slowly, but surely, it's still safe. You still have access to your money if you have an emergency, but you are paying that premium and you have that backed up instead of just saying, I'm going to pay it with that, because, hey, if you die within 2 or 3 years, your family's going to have the life insurance and that savings, which is going to be even better.
Or if you don't have a will, who's going to take that money and do the right thing? You don't know. You hope they will, but they may not. Oh, I thought you were transitioning. Go ahead.
One last thing to that. A lot of life insurance policies come with living benefits.
That's true.
You can pull money from it while you're alive. Only if you have a short amount of time to live. But you can still pull it while you're But a lot of people don't know that. Yes. So if you're diagnosed with cancer, however, you can pull it.
I think the big addition to this is that we got to want to have all this information, even though it's right here in front of us. I mean, we go to the stores, we go to concerts, we spend thousands of dollars for Beyonce, JC concerts. It's the want that people decide they want to do. But when we have vital information, somehow it doesn't play effect until it becomes somebody said a need. We don't prepare for the need. We always make plans what's convenient right now.
Oftentimes people don't know how to respect is because they got a chip on their shoulder. And sometimes the person that's receiving the disrespect don't understand that that person may be having a bad day. It should not, their situation should never change your position.
That's right.
You should continue to be who you are, especially if you're a Christian, a believer. You always model how God and Jesus walked and lived. You continue to love on them, because you never know who needed that.
Are you ready to make monumental changes in your life, business, or relationship and are looking for a push in the right direction? Tony and Nicole Davis from the brand new TV show Family Futures Today offer personal development and relationship coaching services so that you can get your life and your relationships on a path to success. After nearly 3 decades of marriage, Tony and Nicole know what it takes to have a dynamic marriage and be inspiring parents without giving up on personal goals and dreams. As co-founders of Empowered to Engage, they've released the Done Right book series on leadership, marriage, and parenting, and travel across the United States, helping people just like you. And now, they're expanding to help individuals, couples, and families around the globe. For more information and to sign up for your free consultation, visit www.empoweredtoengage.com.
Hi, I'm J.H. Carpenter Barnes. I'm the author of Between the Ticks of the Clock, Shattered Ceilings, 12 Steps to Limitless Thinking, and I'm also the co-host of JW Fusion radio program on the Artist First Radio Network. I've been invited to share on the importance of branding and how to go about establishing your brand as a writer or as an author. Books and Brunch Gala is going to be an awesome event. We hope to see you there Saturday, March 16th at the Charles G. Hayes Center in Chicago. The address will be in the information at the end of the video. Hope to see you there. Got some great things to share. All the best.
Like you, my family is always looking for great movies and TV shows to enjoy together. So you can only imagine how excited I was when we decided to create our very own media ministry, Road to Eternity. We believe in creating entertainment that edifies the soul by developing stories that incorporate faith and hope in people's lives. So whether you're watching a movie or even a television show, we desire to bring you closer to Jesus Christ by releasing entertainment that your family and friends can enjoy. From our family to yours, we thank you for joining us as we take you on this new and exciting journey.
If you are in the Chicagoland area and would like to be a guest, email us at info@roadtoeternity.net. That's info@roadtoeternity.net.
You still have access to your money if you have an emergency, but you are paying that premium and you have that backed up instead of just saying, I'm going to pay it with that because, hey, if you die within 2 or 3 years, your family's going to have the life insurance and that savings, which is going to be even better.
Or if you don't have a will, who's going to take that money and do the right thing? You don't know. You hope they will, but they may not. Oh, I thought you were transitioning. Go ahead.
One last thing to that. A lot of life insurance policies come with living benefits.
That's true.
You can pull money from it while you're alive. Only if you have a short amount of time to live. But you can still pull it while you're But a lot of people don't know that. Yes. So if you diagnosed with cancer, however, you can pull the money from it.
Yeah, and that's why we talk about preparing today so that you can thrive tomorrow. Prepare now for tomorrow. It's important for you. It's important for the dynamics of your relationship. And it's really important for the dynamics of your relationship, even after you're gone, especially with the legacy that you leave with your children. Now, Bev, I know you had some questions.
Well, I know we spend a lot of time talking about insurance, but I'm really interested. What would you say parents need to do to prepare now for a better, thriving family in the future? Anything you'd like to share?
Well, the Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. I think there is a missing link of preparing all of this information. When we were coming up in school, we had civics. We had things in the school that provided us with the information. And then when we grew up, those of us my age, the church was kind of that place where we could go and find out about those kinds of things, because maybe at church I could go talk to somebody who knew who sold insurance, or I could talk to someone who was able to tell me who this person or that person was in that regard. What we need to do now, I think, is to go back into our communities because they are under-parented. If that's a way to say that.
We'll go with it. It'll be added to the dictionary in 2021.
21. Okay, cool. Because we have this lack of parenting, we don't have the skill sets because parents are younger now. They don't have the skill sets to have acquired that information to pass on to their children. And without that information being passed on, as he said, okay, I educated myself because of my need. Well, sometimes you don't have the option to do that. So now he is at 35-ish year old. Now he can understand how to articulate that to not only his parishioners, but to the other people around his sphere of influence. That's what I think we're failing to do, because no longer are we aware of who our neighbors are. There used to be a time when I could say, my mother would say to me, well, go down to Miss Brenda's house. She can tell you about X, whatever X was in that regard. We don't share with each other information. So we hoard information. So I get it from my household and I know what I need to do. And I got my will prepared and I have a living will and I have the insurance. I have all of these things. I've found out how to finance my kids through college, but we don't share that information. And I think that's one of the keys that are missing.
Okay, so you said go back into the community. Give us some hows and whats. What is that? How do we do that and what does it look like?
Well, you have to be creative. I think one, creative within yourself and find out where is my circle of influence. So wherever I have a circle of influence, I need to go and talk about that. Ask the better questions and say, hey, guys, what are you doing with this? I see you just had a grandbaby. Do they know about X, Y, and Z? Are they doing any planning? Hey, I have a friend who was just talking to me yesterday about this, and I want you to talk to her about that. So we can use our influence wherever we have it and make sure that people get the information that they otherwise wouldn't even look for.
And realizing that you do have some kind of influence. You may think you may be insignificant, but you do have influence because you have knowledge and you also have connections.
Absolutely.
So wouldn't it be nice to have an influence day at church? Everybody who has a particular area of expertise come and share that information, because really it's difficult. It sounds nice, but we're caught up in the cares of life, and we're trying to hold our household down, go to work and do all the things that we need to do. But if something is scheduled or we're a part of a network that is doing something that we can become a part of, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable telling people what to do with their families, or a lot of people are not receptive when you come to me with that. But if I'm a part of something and they are doing something, then I may be more inclined to receive that, or you'll take it from a stranger. What's the definition of an expert? Somebody else. You'll take it from somebody you don't know. But that's just something that the church can do. If we have influence in the church, you start where you can make the most impact, and hopefully it can go from there. But that's making us relevant again, as the body of Christ, because we're losing our influence and our relevance. And I was just sharing with Tony, I think last week, I said, I want to be relevant. I don't want to leave here and not be relevant, that I can come and go from this earth and nobody know anything about me or care about anything that I'm doing, have not made a difference in anybody's life. We should all want to be relevant. And that's a way that we can start doing that.
Well, I think for those of us who are, if I'm understanding you guys correct, y'all veterans, when I went outside of my normal and I saw it, as my brother said, go see the world. When I saw the world, I couldn't keep that information somewhere else. I brought that information back to my family. Speaking of mental health, just because I went through a training where I thought I was just going to the training to get the information. You know how we do. I'm going to go with my pencil and my pen and I'll be able to help these good people. But in that process.
That's how we do.
Yeah. So I went and I'm thinking that, and then all of a sudden I got healed. I never expected that. But what I did was I took that information and created a circle of influence in my family. Since I lost my mom, my family, we were kind of disjointed and we started doing Thanksgiving together. So when I went to Thanksgiving 2 years ago, I took that information with me and I just shared my experience. Little did I know that my family was also needing healing. And so when I shared that and made a safe environment for them, they got healed. Now we are all much better from something that I thought was just going to be a place for me to go get some information. So I could say I was one of the cohort pastors as a part of the Turn Center so that we could really be a Johnny on the spot when there's a trauma happening. So I'm a trauma counselor, but now all of a sudden I realize I'm suffering from my own set of trauma because education informed me where I was. So now once I'm informed, now I'm responsible for that information. So now I started self-healing and shared that information in that same sphere. And as a result, they're doing the same thing because the sphere now is growing. So I think those are the kinds of steps, to your point, of how we can kind of make this ripple effect take over. And our church certainly is a key place to do it, but in our schools and our workplaces, wherever we are, from the othermost parts of the earth, we can do this. And sometimes we can take off the collar and the title and all of those things and make sure that we are helping people and showing them love. And so we're salt and light wherever we are.
But if I may add, I think the big addition to this is that we got to want to have all this information, even though it's right here in front of us in many aspects, from the pulpit, commercials, whatever. We have to want it. We can sit every day, print it, however, but we got to want it. I just did a short film on mental health, and I had to ask.
What was the name of that film, Cortez?
It's called Bobby. It's a short film about a 40-year-old black man experiencing mental health issues, and submitted to film festivals, and just unfortunately, it just got rejected from his third mental health film festival. And I found that kind of amazing because when you think mental health is not a color thing, you think it would be embraced. I'm using it for educational purposes. I want it to be in schools and all these different areas because we are suffering. But once again, it's the want. We got to want. I mean, we go to the stores, we go to concerts, we spend thousands of dollars for Beyonce, JC concerts. It's the want that people decide they want to do. But when we have vital information, somehow it doesn't play effect until it becomes somebody said a need. You know, we don't prepare for the need. We always make plans, what's convenient right now. You know, once we get out of that habit, that spirit, that mindset, I think we can go through the process of wanting to get healed in our marriages, our families, our finances, our sibling rivalries, all this stuff. But I just believe we have to want it. When we stop wanting it, that's when we start or continue to die.
So you're saying we don't want it bad enough.
Some people do not want it bad enough. I think there's an old story about a dog sitting on the porch moaning or something like that on a nail. They say he sit there, he moan all day, and the people figure out why he moaning. The owner say he just sitting on the nail all day and don't realize if he get up, he'll stop hurting. But sometimes we just choose to sit there just to have an excuse and to add this because we enjoy, I kind of don't like saying it, but we enjoy being a victim.
Yeah.
It's convenient. It puts us in a circle with everybody else. That's why I enjoy what you just said, how you got the information shared with your family. Now everybody's healing. And that's the way we should be, especially with those of knowledge, who care, who are compassionate. So that's just my 2 cents.
That's a good 2 cents.
When you mentioned an influence day, I really like that because two things. Oftentimes, the networking group are for people that have businesses. So there is a buy and sell connotation to it. But if you talk about influence day, I'm not going to sell anything. I'm going to educate, or I'm going there to learn something. I'm not going to buy anything. And then we make the emphasis on that education because we don't know what we don't know. You see, we don't know it, and you might be dealing with an issue and you just, don't think there is a solution for it because you don't know about it. But once you know, or you think it's just too much, getting that is going to cost too much. Getting a mortgage, getting a house, there are a lack of information right there that to me might seem, you didn't know that? But to you might be like, wow. So that influence day, I like that. I think that should be coined. That should be something that every church should have, an influence day. Like they have an ethnic day that we have influence that we can share. We can share little tips and tricks and let people know that, hey, let me share what I know so I can influence you in some way to made the right decisions. That's what I wanted to add.
So speaking of all of these things, we're talking about family, we're talking about education. Some other things that are missing in our families is respect. And that's one other thing. I can think of some other things, but what do we need to do to get the respect back in our homes for spouses, for parents and children? Who wants to speak to that? Oh. Well,
I got something.
I would just say, I made a post about this respect, and we've been saying for years that respect is earned. And to me, I've come to the knowledge to believe that respect is a decision.
That's right.
Because the same people that you supposed to love, you disrespect, but the people who are harming you, somehow you respect them more. It happens in marriages, it happens in family, all over the board. I've come to a sort of kind of conclusion that I realize churches don't preach on this one scripture, God has respect the person. We don't really preach on that more because we see it every Sunday, everywhere we see respect. I like you more. And it shouldn't be, especially as the body of Christ. It don't matter what the denomination, whatever. The first thing we should be saying is having compassion towards one another. And somehow that compassion becomes a choice. But I'm going to leave it on this when everybody say, I have a relationship with God, but you can't say hi to your brother and sister. I quit.
I know, Erica, you were itching at the bit. I saw Aries was itching at the bit, but Nas, I see your brain working over there. Tell us what's going on when you hear that.
When I think of respect, I don't think that respect is something that has the same meaning for every family and for everyone. Because if I'm from a Jamaican household, and what's considered respect in a Jamaican household may not be the same thing that's considered respect in another culture. You get what I mean? But in general, we talk about respect.
What does it mean for the Jamaican household? What does respect mean?
Well, respect is something that from a kid, that you have no other choice but to be respectful, not just to your immediate family, but to everyone around you. It's like that ripple effect. It starts in the family and then it just trickles out into the wider community. That's what it is. So it looks different in different situations. For example, as a Jamaican growing up, if you're going on the road, if I pass you 10 times, I say good morning 10 times, but for another culture, that's ridiculous. But that's just how I was raised. I always acknowledge your presence because you're there. Because if something happens and I fall to the ground, you are the person who will have to call for help. That's how I was raised. But it's different for other cultures. But in general, when I think of respect has to be modeled. You cannot expect a child to be respectful if that respect was never modeled in the home setting. They will go to school and they will not be respectful to their teachers and to their peers. They don't know what it's like to be respectful. So it has to be modeled. But you can only model something if you were taught how to model it. There's this saying in the mental health profession, hurt people. And it's the same thing. If you didn't know what it's like to be treated with respect, you will not know what it's like to give respect. So when you have your own kids, you won't know what it's like to model what it means to be a respectful parent. So your kid won't know what it's like to model to be a respectful kid. So I think that's something that we've overlooked, that everyone knows what it means to be respectful. I think we have to take it back to the basics. Teaching people what it means to be respectful and teaching people what it means to give respect and how to receive respect too, because we have that problem. Somebody might be respectful to you and you don't know that they're being respectful, so it's not received well. So I think that's something that we have to model and teach people what it is to be respectful.
Okay, Erica, your turn.
Well, she kind of took half of what I wanted to say.
Give us the other half.
Respect, and like your culture, that was in my culture too.
What's your culture?
Oh, Black. Grandma didn't play that. Medea didn't play that. So, one of the things is we got to do self-evaluations, and need more people loving themselves. Once you love yourself, then the respect will come and be shared, and then the trickle effect will happen. Oftentimes people don't know how to respect is because they got a chip on their shoulder. And sometimes the person that's receiving the disrespect don't understand that that person may be having a bad day. This should not, their situation should never change your position.
That's right.
You should continue to be who you are, especially if you're a Christian, a believer. You always model how God and Jesus walked and lived. You continue to love on them because you never know who needed that. That could have been that moment where they decided to take their life, and they have now said, you know what, that person did show me love and show me respect.
Aries, he was chopping just as much as Erica.
Well, it is a subject that fascinates me in a sense because I see that it's a big issue in society today. Like Vanessa mentioned, we grew up saying hello, good morning to our elders. If I was in the bus and an elder person came in, there was no other seat, I had to get up and give it to her. When I was in the classroom and the teacher came in or the director of the faculty came in, everybody would get up and say good morning or good afternoon. See, it was shown. But this is something that also it's learned in the family. Then society has a big part to do with. When it comes to in marriage, when a husband and wife respect each other, the kids are going to learn to respect each other as well. But the first and most important thing is that respect is a choice. It's not a feeling. It's a principle. I will respect regardless of how you treat me. I will show you respect. Regardless of how I'm feeling today, I will act respectfully. Now, when we start with that, and I say that it starts with the husband and wife, when we are asked as Christian, who is greater, Jesus or Jehovah God, or the Father? And when you know your Bible, it's going to be hard for you to make a distinction. You're going to say, God the Father is greater, but God the Father said, listen to my son. But if you say Jesus is greater, then Jesus said, the Father is greater than I am, right? So you cannot really tell who's greater. The same thing, when you walk into a marriage and you cannot tell who's greater between them two, then there's mutual respect and it's a functioning family, right? So after that, you start to see how the kids react and the fact that the language that is being used. When we speak, our words, our spirit, they format our mind, they format our hearts. And the Bible says we need to keep our hearts, right, with all diligence. So when you see a household that is not used the please and thank you, the I'm sorry, it is a dysfunctional household, or it will become dysfunctional. And those kids are not going to show respect outside because it's just not encouraged in the family. Now, another important thing when it comes to the kids respecting their parents, I have the opportunity to minister to a lot of single mothers, right? Especially with the single mothers, where the kids are not respecting her. They don't respect their parents. Number one thing is that they believe the Bible says, love your parents. And the Bible never says that. Look for it. I challenge you. The Bible never says, kids, love your parents. It says, honor your parents. It's an honor. It's an honor thing. When you teach your children to honor you, they're going to end up loving you. That love is a product of their being respectful to you. When you serve somebody, you fall in love with that person. The more you do for somebody, the more you feel like I have something invested there. So therefore, your kids should also learn to do things in the house so they can, okay, I am invested there. Why do you think that even though the kids love the parents love the kids a lot more, much more? A healthy parent, of course. That's because the parent gives everything. It serves that child all their life. See? So therefore, they have more invested in there. And sometimes as parents, we think, I don't want my kids to have to deal with that. And that's wrong because that's teaching them, oh, it's all about me. Instead, it's a family unit. Now, another thing is we start, mothers, single mothers. And I say that because it's my experience, but it will happen in all aspects. I have an issue with an elder, and I tell that to my kids. I have an issue with a neighbor, and I tell that to my kids. Now, the kids begin to see elder people as being less than they are. They begin to see the parents as being equal to them. And that's when there's no more respect. I remember when I was growing up, my father and mother had visitor. Boy, get out of here. Go back. If I would come by and say, Miami, where are we going? I would go and where? Were you listening to the conversation? And I would be punished because there was a thing for parents And I think for kids, you didn't get to wear a tie until you were a certain age. You didn't get to wear certain clothing until you were older, because it will show you that level, as you mature. But nowadays, kids are getting all the benefits of being an adult without the process and responsibility of becoming an adult. And that's a big issue, a big influence in the respect that we see in today's society.
So let me ask this. Let me ask you guys this. Because in our society, we're talking about how we were raised. And of course, we are like the older people now, the millennials and Gen X and all of that. How important is it that I like you to respect you? Must I like you to respect you?
No, you don't have to like me to respect me.
Okay.
And I don't have to like someone to respect them. I think what that has a lot to do is boundaries. And the reason why I said that, because I heard what you were saying about a parent talking to a kid about an issue that they're having with another adult. That's poor boundaries as a parent. As a parent, you have to create boundaries with your kids, and you have to teach your kids good boundaries too. And that's a major part of respect. Learning how to respect other people's boundaries, and learning how to identify your own boundaries, so you know when somebody is being disrespectful to your boundaries and your personal space. And that's a very big thing now that we're trying to teach parents how to raise emotionally healthy kids and emotionally healthy families. And a big part of that is creating boundaries and setting those lines, those imaginary lines, helping kids to identify other people's emotions. And that's the only way that you could really be respectful, which goes back to the point, I may not like you, but I respect you as a person. I respect you as a human being. I respect you as a professional. So whatever you say to me, I do not receive it in a way of, with hate. I receive it and I go along, and that's respect. You get what I mean? So it's such a big topic, and I really like it.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I just want to chime in, babe. I know we're asking the questions, but I have to give an answer as well. Just hearing some of the answers that have come forward. And I like what you said earlier, Vanessa. You talked about going back to the basics, right? So let's go back to some basics. And, we talk about Bible basics, right? What are some of the basics? We love the Lord our God with all our heart, our soul, our mind, right? Mm-hmm. But we also ought to love our neighbor as who? Ourselves. So we say, well, we love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, then of course, then that means that a child would also love his parents, because his parents, then you can love your neighbor just so you would love your parent, right? But we say, well, what kind of love are we talking about? We're talking about, I'm going to agape you, right? I'm going to have unconditional love, because my kids, they can't eros my wife. That would be perverted, right? So
What does that mean, sir?
That's sexual kind of.
I know, but we're talking to the masses.
Yeah. So we want to teach people to value. You said value, right? You used the word value, Vanessa. We need to learn how to just value. You talked about earlier, valuing yourself. And then you talked about valuing other people. See, that's some of the basics that we need to get back to. And then here's another basic that we need to get to, right? It's this. We know it's called the golden rule. Even unchurched people know this. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, treat people right. Treat them the way you would want to be treated. Those are some basics that we need to get back to. And yet it sounds so fundamental and basic, but we need to learn how to drive those points home and practically apply, because that's what we talk about, the how-tos of acquiring knowledge. We need to start talking this stuff and actually learning how to live this stuff out. And I think if we were to do that, we can have a lot better results.
Yeah. And go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, somebody go ahead.
Well, I'm going to go. One of the things that the Bible says that kind of, I think, helps paint the picture. It tells husbands to love your wives, and it tells wives to respect your husbands. They are not the same. I can live without love. I can't live without respect for my wife.
That's right.
Because I functionally don't need it to function. I need to be respected to function. Or in other words, it's appropriateness. If I'm making a recipe, if you're putting too much salt in my cake, you're going to destroy it. I think some of the boundaries that you were sharing about, our children don't know the recipes. So they don't know how to put appropriateness in play. So our parents don't know the recipe. So they're giving too many things. You can put as much of whatever ingredient into this, and you will not have a cake. You'll have some fun. Y'all will have a good day, but it won't be a cake. And I think that's part of the problem, because we assume that we understand these words when we say respect. We assume that people should know. But everybody is marketed information, and it's the marketed information that we choose to learn. So if it's marketed in my family where I curse you out and you're 2,
That's right.
if that's the market that I grew up under, don't expect me not to curse out everybody, because we see on social media, they think it's cute to see little Johnny saying these things inappropriately to his mother. That's now become a fad. That's become a thing. So when little Johnny is 16 and testosterone goes through his body, he is no longer going to be cute with you. He is going to hit his mother. And when he hits his mother, now she's going to want to kill him. And now we have created dysfunction because we thought it was cute to market inappropriateness. So that child never had the opportunity to learn respect. Most of us men, we have the benefit of learning respect because we play team sports a lot. You don't have a choice. When you go into the military, you don't have a choice. When you have those particular environments, it's force-fed to you, so you don't get a choice. Not enough of our people are marketing the right thing. When I see a single parent being abusive to a child, that's not discipline. But the assumption is, well, they don't have a father, so I got to hit them. If you ball up your fist and you hit your son or your daughter and they're a kid that's still wearing pull-ups, you're an abuser, ma'am, sir, whoever you are, because you have not marketed. So now how does little Johnny, who has been punished like this, now he comes into the first grade classroom, he is going to be a tyrant. And now we say Johnny is a bad kid, but Johnny is just a reflection of the mirror that parent has.
Yeah. So what we've heard is that when your initial question about respect and then your subsequent question about respect, what we've heard is that a lot of the responsibility falls in the lap of the parents. We have to model it. We have to demonstrate it so that our children can understand it. I mean, as a matter of fact, we talk about the iniquities of the parents being visited to the children, right? We know, some of us know that the Hebrew word there is avon, which means the bent. And that's what you were talking about, the bent, the way you were taught, that's what's going to go into those children. So if you will learn to be temperamental, then that's what your children are going to learn. If you learn to ball up your fist, that's what your children are going to learn. And if you learn to be respectful, and then that's what your children is going to learn.
Mm-hmm. And so what I'm thinking about as we're about to wrap up here, there's a West African proverb that says, the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. I live by that because I look at the state.
It's actually on our refrigerator.
Yeah. I look at the state of our country and we talk about the state of our children. We talk about the state of our church. Well, we have a word, we have a Bible that gives us verses and scriptures that tell us how to do all of this, but yet it's not happening because we have gotten caught up in all of the mess that's going on, and we have not set the boundaries and said, no, we will not participate in that. We will not speak like that. We will not operate like that, and show respect even when we don't agree, because that is the kingdom way of doing things. And so as we are raising our families and we're being people of influence and we are talking to people about respect or whether or not you should because one of the things I wanted us to get into and we didn't get a chance to is, can you be a parent and be a friend to your child? Now, we didn't get into that, but the answer is emphatically absolutely not. But what we can do is model respect. We can model boundaries. We can model love, honor, and we can educate on all the areas that are necessary for us to thrive in our families. Emotional health is important, not just today, but in your workplace. We see what's happening because of the lack of emotional health. As you pursue education, you need emotional health in order to do that and deal with mental health, depression, and all that, so that we deal with stress better because we struggle in that area. Our finances, we struggle in that. And as a parent, as a mother and a father, as husband and wife, we have got to take responsibility to make the decisions that are going to change the trajectory of our home. It is no one else's responsibility. It is ours. And so as Family Futures today, as Tony and Nicole, we are commissioning ourselves right now through the Holy Spirit, because that's who is governing everything that we do, to make the difference that we can in the lives of those who are following us, working with us, because we need better families. We need better examples, and we need the power of God operating through all of us in these areas, right? Do we agree on that? So we thank you so much for joining us in this special edition of Family Futures today. We are so glad that you joined us. Please, we have books, the Done Right series. Marriage Done Right is hard work.
Sure. Marriage Done Right is hard work, but it's worth it. Actually, well, let's let Cortez kick us out. We can talk about the books after.
Oh, okay.
Really? We have had a wonderful show, the special edition of Family Features today. Our special guests, our expertise, and our wonderful guests, Mr. Tony and Nicole Davis. We enjoyed the show. Deep conversation for deep thoughts. We'll see you next time.